Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Episode number 28 of Jamin's Daily. Jamin here, your host. Thanks for joining us once again. Today's episode, we're going to get back into the novel that we're writing together. That I hope to have. I'm crowdsourcing this novel. You can write in your ideas. Send them to me at jaminsdaily@gmail.com. We're going to read what I have. This is like the first draft. And so we're going to go over it. I'm going to read it to you. And then I want for you to interact, give me some ideas, incorporate those into what I'm already doing. And we're going to create this brilliant, series of books, movies. I'm already having in my mind who I want to, be director. Okay? So it's going to be a fun adventure. And the title of the book is HRH. Subtitle: Humanoids Are Human. We're going to get into chapter 1. But before we get into the actual, the words of the book, the chapters, the way I've been outlining this is that it has very short chapters. So there's chapter 1, we get into chapters really quick. And the way I was thinking is that either one or two things is going to happen. I'm either going to expand upon those chapters to make them longer, or we're going to merge some of those into. And so maybe maybe 3 chapters are going to end up becoming one in the actual book. Haven't really made up my mind. I don't know. Depending on the feedback that we get, we'll go from there. But if you are just now joining us, I recommend going back, check on our episode list. The episode in which we talk about HRH, whole episode in which we talk about the preface, the prologue, give you some background as to where we're going with this book. Okay, folks? So let's get right into it. Chapter 1 is called Bill and John. In a new-aged, brilliantly designed manufacturing plant in Silicon Valley, products move along a conveyor belt. Employees in lab coats tend to all types of equipment and monitor the assembly line as robotic automation puts together a finished product. The speed of the manufacturing is dizzying. So much production is going on, but inside the massive manufacturing plant there are only a dozen or so workers. You see, in the month of May in the year 2033, the vast majority of employees who work for the Human Corporation are humanoids. And the plant is owned and operated by the Human Corporation. Bill Masterson is one of the few real humans working at the plant. He oversees production. So in the control room, in the plant, Bill is talking to a co-worker. "Did you place your order yet?" a co-worker asked Bill. "Sure did. Finally uploaded all my wife's files. Placed the order this morning before I came to work," Bill says, with both a smile and a sigh of relief. The co-worker needles some more. "Are you excited? I mean, I know you've been wanting one for a while." "You bet your ass I'm excited. I just don't want to get my hopes up too much. I know it's a humanoid and not really Karen." Which is funny because I named this girl, Bill, John's wife. I think it's Karen. Years ago, I started this book in 2017, and now Karen is like this meme for obnoxious women. Okay, so I may have to change the name. So he says, I bet you bet your ass I'm excited. I just don't want to get my hopes up too much. I know it's a humanoid and not really Karen. We'll see. I'll keep you posted." So this is John telling Bill, With that, Bill walks out of the control room and strolls down a long industrial pathway, surrounded by automated machinery and humanoids assembling humanoids. Bill observes the production, looks over a couple of monitors attached to several different types of manufacturing equipment, and then walks over to the plant's deputy foreman, whose name is John. "John, What is our... Oh, no. So you know what? Bill... See, I haven't even read this. I wrote this a long time ago. Bill's wife is Karen. She died. So he's ordering a humanoid in her likeness. Okay? So, Bill observes the production, looks over a couple of monitors attached to several different types of manufacturing equipment, and then walks over to the plant's deputy foreman, whose name is John. John, what is our current output? Bill questions. 7 units a minute, states John. Bill inquires some more. Supply levels? Current supply levels are at 37% capacity, says John. Bill makes some notes on a clipboard. Okay, John, what is your battery reading? 4,537 minutes of battery life, states John. Bill makes some more notes on his clipboard. Very well, John. Bill calmly says, seemingly satisfied with John's replies. As Bill walks off, he turns back to look at John and says to himself, soon I'll have my very own. Because Bill's getting his Karen humanoid in the mail, hopefully. So Bill took a nervous sip of room temperature coffee as he observed the production floor of the Humanoid Corporation. This is some more content that's written that we'll see where it goes. You let me know. Bill knew that the workers down below commonly referred to this area as the womb. That was fine with him. He even thought it was a good name. But he also knew that if the executives and marketing team in St. Louis knew about this pet name, a full scrub team would be sent in to clean house and eradicate such levity. He would lose days of productivity as his workers were taken away for interviews or worse. He knew that some would never return. He could not lose productivity. Bill was on a mission. The womb must produce. It must produce now. Bill had not slept the night before. He couldn't remember the last time he'd slept. His mind raced with thoughts of his dead wife, Karen. Karen. She had been his life. Karen made me feel, he thought. Have I felt like that since? He wondered about the 8 years since she died. Is she really gone? Even as her memory slipped further into the recesses of his mind, Bill still couldn't accept it. He remembered himself as a prominent detective with the Houston police force. He remembered his wife. He remembered her, but that's not him. That's not his life anymore. He is a programmer and the vice president of quality control at the Human Corporation, and he is obsessed. Who had he become? What would she think of him? Bill consoled himself. I'll find out soon. Bill took a final pull of his now cold coffee and returned to his office. Did I forget anything? I've uploaded it all. Chapter 2. So that was chapter 1. I told you the chapters were going to be kind of quick, to the point. So there's chapter 1, giving you some ideas. We can add to it, take away from it. Who knows? But let's look into chapter 2. Lost in Transit is the name of chapter 2. Again, Lost in Transit. Houston, Texas is the third largest city in the U.S. behind New York and Los Angeles. Houston is, like most all big cities in the U.S., is divided into several sections. Many sections, actually. Each section of the city is inhabited by different groups of people. This is in 2033, folks. Okay? Each section of the city is inhabited by different groups of people. Luke Hastings lives in a middle-class section of Houston. He is one of the fortunate who still has a good job. Luke works for NASA as an exoplanetary biodiversity analyst. One of the few jobs humanoids have not taken. In a high-rise apartment in the middle of the city, Kara plays with her dolls in the living room floor while her daddy, Luke, looks over her while at the same time talking on the phone. My order number is TX35489, Luke tells the operator on the other end of the line. I placed my order last Monday and the tracking on my shipment is coming back as an error. My order was supposed to have arrived yesterday, Luke explains in frustration. Several minutes go by and Kara can see her daddy's patience wearing thin. What do you mean it's lost in transit? How could that have happened? Luke cries out. Several more minutes go by and Kara can hear the voice on the other line explaining how her daddy's package has been deemed unrecoverable and a full refund will be in order. You mean to tell me that my humanoid has gone missing and you're not even looking for it? Luke's voice is rising. Do you realize my order was of my late wife and now she's gone missing? Luke argues impassionately for several minutes, but to no avail. His humanoid was lost in transit, and the customer service representative is not able to give Luke any further details other than when to expect his refund. Luke paces around as Kara cautiously asks, "What's the matter, Daddy?" Luke bends over and down to one knee. He looks Kara in the eye and says, "Honey, there's been a mistake, and the mommy robot we were expecting is not coming after all." "That's okay, Daddy. We can just get another one," Kara assures her father, in the way only a child could. "That's right, baby. I'm sorry, but we're just gonna have to wait a little longer. That's all. Everything's gonna be just fine." But things are not just fine. Luke is beside himself in disbelief. How could this have happened? He could in fact just order another humanoid. The Human Corporation already had all the details of his order, so the process would conceivably be expedited. But that's not what is bothering Luke. You see, his wife Melanie is dead, and now a humanoid version of her is out there somewhere. The thought of Melanie being lost, or worse, mistreated, even if it is just a stupid robot, tears at Luke's conscience. Luke walks out to the balcony of his unit, 37 floors above street level, and gazes into the urban horizon. He can see the vestiges of what used to be a beautiful city, but what is now an urban wasteland. His section of the city is not so bad, but is a far cry from what he remembers as a child growing up. The streets are in disrepair and littered with garbage. Homeless people wander around panhandling. Every business storefront is lined with burglar bars, and this is actually one of the better sections in town. Some sections in the city are far worse. Later that night, Luke has just finished tucking Kara in for bed. He reads her a bedtime story and quietly exits her room after she has fallen asleep. Luke walks into the TV room and throws himself onto the couch. He turns on the TV and begins to channel surf, looking for something to keep his mind off the day's misfortune. He samples several channels, but nothing worthwhile is on until finally something catches his attention. He's landed on channel 379, which is a cable news network called Future News Network, or FNN. News anchor David Abelson's nightly show is on, and he has Alexei Ivanov as a guest. Ivanov is the founder and CEO of the Human Corporation. He's the richest man in the world, and he's always on television talking about how great humanoids are. Tonight is no different. David Abelson is lobbying softball questions. He's lobbing softball questions to Ivanov. Abelson asks Ivanov, what do humanoids mean for humanity? So you got to picture the cable news network, the interview. Abelson, who it's his show, ask Ivanov, what do humanoids mean for humanity? Well, David, Alexei stammers in his Russian accent. Humanoids have always been designed to work with people hand in hand, side by side. This partnership and revelation means many things for humanity, such as better productivity, more security, and better care for the elderly. Abelson nods in agreement, but puts on the front of an investigating journalist. But every viewer knows he is staunchly pro-humanoid. Abelson says, I'm glad you said that, Alexei, because there's so much animosity and vitriol towards you, the Human Corporation, and humanoids, I believe, is misdirected. As you said, humanoids are meant to help and assist humanity. Am I getting that right? Precisely, says Ivanov. Having heard enough, Luke changes the channel. Luke's somewhat conflicted when it comes to humanoids. He thinks it's wrong how they have taken so many jobs from people, but at the same time, he did just recently order his own humanoid, so he understands the desire for humanoids. He just wishes things were different. Different how? Luke has no idea. All Luke knows is at this very moment he's pissed off and can't believe his bad luck. The thought of Melanie being out there somewhere with who knows who and doing who knows what is killing him inside. He knows what he has to do. He has to find her. End of chapter 2. What do you think, folks? I'm thinking it's getting pretty good. I haven't read this in a while, and I'm already thinking I want to buy this book. But we're going to take our first break. Remember that this podcast is brought to you by Sage Choice Insurance Agency. You can reach us at 361-400-2411, full service independent agency. We do it all. Homeowners, auto insurance, business insurance, windstorm. Give us a call, 361-400-2411. We've made it very easy for you to get a quote online or give us your information so that we can help you with a quote. You can go to quotefromjamin.com. Super easy online form. Gives us the information we need so that we can quote you. We'll reach out to you. If you're already a customer of ours, one, I also want to thank you for your business. The other thing that you can do that would help us greatly is you can go to refer, R-E-F-E-R, refer to, T-O, R-E-F-E-R-T-O, Jamin, J-A-M-I-N, refer to jamin.com. Put in your name, put in somebody you want to refer, send it to us. Gift cards, folks. They're yours to be had if we can quote these folks. So refer them to us. We greatly appreciate it. When we get back, we're going to go over chapter 3. We'll see how many chapters we get through on this episode, folks. So when we get back, until then, stick with us. Welcome back, folks, to Jamin's Daily. This episode, we're reading the novel HRH, Humanoids Are Human. And we're getting into chapter 3, titled Cupcake. On a cold winter night, a pickup truck pulls into a dark back alley. The truck creeps down the alley and slowly comes to a stop. A man dressed in a hoodie exits the vehicle and begins to unload a large package from the bed of the truck. As he loads the package onto a dolly, a man wearing a muscle shirt, shorts, and flip-flops approaches from an entrance of a residential building. The flip-flop guy approaches hoodie guy. "You Johnny?" Flip-flop guy asks. "Yeah, I'm Johnny," says dude in the hoodie. "Is this my shit?" asked the dude in the flip-flops. "Are you Jim?" asked the dude in the hoodie. Dude in the flip-flops nods in the affirmative. "Then yes, this is your shit. You got my money?" Jim looks around as to see if anybody is watching and then hands the wad of cash to the guy. He grabs the dolly and makes his way with the package into the building, up an elevator and back to his place. He struggles with the dolly and the heavy package to enter his apartment, but he finally manages to get it in. He tilts the dolly forward and the package tips over with a crash. Jim bemoans, slightly out of breath, having just pushed his package quite a ways. Let's see what we got here. So he's unpackaging it, right? Use your imagination. Jim pries open the large wooden rectangular box and begins to toss around the materials in the box used to prevent the product from being damaged during shipment. Lord have mercy, what a beauty. Jim grins from ear to ear. His unshaven face says it all. He can barely contain his enthusiasm. Finally, he has a humanoid of his own, and he only paid $10,000 for it. Advanced humanoids like this one can cost as much as $100,000. But Jim didn't order his humanoid from the Human Corporation. Jim got his on the black market. Jim is able to unpack and stand a humanoid upright. He looks over at the user manual. He looks up the simple instructions, and suddenly he follows. He looks up and then he follows the simple instructions, and suddenly she comes to life. Greetings. I am Sally 3.0, humanoid, brought to you by the Human Corporation. But you know me as Melanie. I recommend you read the user manual and follow all the instructions within it. This way your user experience will be greatly enhanced. This is the robot speaking to him, right? Jim stares at Melanie, taking notice of her long auburn hair, her lily white complexion, her hazel eyes, his mouth ajar, and perversion running wild in his mind. He didn't pay $10,000 for someone to help him with his laundry. He didn't save his unemployment checks for 2 years to have someone wash his dishes. Jim has one thing on his mind, something that he has anticipated for a long time. Jim gets closer to Melanie and tells her, "Don't say a word." Now, all humanoids are shipped dressed in a gray sweatshirt and pants, with the Human Corporation logo on them. So she's in a gray sweatshirt and pants with the Human Corporation logo on them. Jim commands Melanie to remove her clothing. Melanie does so without hesitation, revealing her slender body. He then begins to fondle her breast. He runs his hands over her stomach and hips and grabs her ass with both hands, pulling her body into his. They're face to face when Jim tells her to give him a kiss. Humanoids are initially programmed with the ability to understand and perform thousands of interactions and actions. Giving a kiss is one such action. Melanie's lips pucker and she slightly leans in to give Jim a kiss. Jim smiles and says, "I'm gonna call you Cupcakes." End of chapter 3. What do you think, folks? That was probably the shortest chapter that we've got going, but it kind of gives you an idea of. So now we know that somebody is lost, and maybe I got these names mixed up, man. That's where you come in. So the guy who lost his wife that he had ordered, the robot, well, now we know where it's at, right? This other dude is in possession of it because he bought it on the black market. His name is Jim. And I think I have the names mixed up here on chapter 1, Bill and John. Because it's Luke. No, I think I'm going somewhere else with this. You'll see. Okay. John still is going to get his own, I believe. And he works for the Human Corporation. Luke just happens. This is another. There's going to be several different. Because if we're going to make this a series, I'm trying to create like a different storylines for different characters that all kind of intermingle into one long story. Which is how I think it's done. I don't know. I didn't take a class on how to write a book, folks. But we're here together to try to do it together, folks. So I think it's working out. So that was chapter 3. We're going to take a break. When we get back, folks, we'll look into chapter 4. And we're back, folks. That was a short break. We're going to get right back into it here. Jamin's Daily. Chapter 4. Reward. Missing Humanoid is the title of chapter 4. Luke wakes up the following day after having received the devastating news that his humanoid / wife, Melanie, is missing. He decides to go to the police station and file a missing person report. He drops his daughter off at school and begins to make his way to the police department. As Luke drives on the city streets, he thumbs the radio dial, and settles on something to listen to, when all of a sudden he slams on the brakes. He almost hit a pedestrian jaywalking across the street. Luke quickly realizes that there are a lot more people in the street than normal. He drives slowly up the road, takes a turn down the street, and witnesses a sea of people protesting in the middle of the street. He attempts to make a U-turn and head back the way he came, but he's now blocked by protesters who have congregated behind his car and all along the streets. Surrounded and not able to drive forward or reverse, Luke begins to slowly steer toward the curve. It takes him 5 minutes to drive 15 feet and park his car. Luke exits his car and he is immediately confronted by agitated protesters. "Easy, bro. Take it easy," says Luke, attempting to de-escalate the situation. "You trying to run us over, man?" says a protester. Luke pleads with them. "No way, man. I'm just trying to drive by. Didn't even know all this was going on. My bad." Luke manages to convince the protesters that he's sincere, and they soon begin to forget about him and disperse in all directions, except for one protester who continues to linger close by. It's a guy, maybe 30 years old, in jeans and a t-shirt, and wearing a baseball cap. Nothing extraordinary about him at all until Luke reads what's printed on his t-shirt. It says, "Real people first." Luke has heard of this group before. Luke looks around and he realizes he's surrounded by Real People First supporters. The man finally approaches Luke and asks, "Are you RPF?" Luke, caught off guard by the question, fails to respond. "Are you down with RPF?" asked the guy once again. Luke musters a timid, "No, not really." "That's a shame, man. You really should support us because we are trying to stop the robot invasion, man. They're taking all our jobs, man." The guy rambles on some more about how terrible humanoids are for the world and all, and finally gets around to asking Luke, "What's your name, man?" By this time, Luke is casually walking up the street, trying to avoid the protesters while at the same time not being rude or offending this guy who's following him. "My name's Luke. Nice to meet you, Luke. I'm Juan." "Have you ever heard of Real People First?" Juan asks. "A little bit, but I don't know much," says Luke. And Luke is not lying. He's heard of the RPF organization, but was never one to get involved in groups or organizations, much less actually going out to protest. Juan continues to recruit Luke. "Look at those idiots." Juan gestures across the street where another large crowd of protesters is gathered. "Can you believe they think humanoids are human? You gotta be kidding me." Luke listens patiently while steadily moving along in an effort to get out of Dodge. "Those robot lovers cost me my job, you know that? They could care less that their precious humanoids are putting real people out of work. They think humanoids should have rights. Can you believe that shit?" One goes on, listing numerous grievances humanoids and their supporters are guilty of. Finally, Luke makes his way past the RPF protesters and approaches an intersection where a right turn leads to the police department. Only about 3 blocks down the way, Luke stops and asks Juan, "You gonna follow me all the way to the police department? Because that's where I'm headed." Juan looks back toward the protest for a moment, turns back, and tells Luke, "Nah, man, I ain't. But before you go, take a hard look at those guys over there." Juan points at the protesters across the street. "They're with humanoids are human. They are single-handedly ruining this country, and you need to know that," says Juan with disdain and an emotionally cracking voice. Luke nods politely and then turns down the street on his way to the police department. Luke enters the Houston Police Department station on Martin Luther King and 21st Street at around 9:30 in the morning. He walks up to the information desk. A young lady sits behind a glass window. Luke tells her his business. "I'm wanting to file a missing persons report. Sign in, fill out this form, and take a seat in the lobby, and someone will be out to get you in a bit," says the receptionist. Luke takes a seat and starts to fill out the form. He quickly realizes he's attempting to file a missing person's report on a humanoid. All the questions on the form pertain to an actual person. Confused and frustrated, Luke decides to leave most of the form blank and just wait it out until he can talk to a person. Minutes turn into an hour and he's still waiting. He looks around. The police station smells like a locker room. The lighting is terrible. And to make matters worse, he's got to use the bathroom, but there's a sign on the door that reads "out of order." Finally, at 11:07 a.m., a man opens the adjacent door from the lobby and calls out, "Luke Hastings." "That's me," says Luke as he gets up from his chair and makes his way over. Luke follows a man dressed in a white long-sleeve button-down shirt with a tie and khakis. The man is not dressed like a cop, so he must be some type of detective. We walk down a hallway and enter into a small office. The detective tells Luke to take a seat. So you want to report someone missing?" asks the detective. "That's right," says Luke. The detective looks over the form Luke filled out and says, "There's a lot of information missing here, sir." Luke explains to the detective how he wants to report his humanoid missing. The humanoid is of his late wife, and it matters greatly to him that she has gone missing. "You see, detective, this isn't just any old humanoid. It's Melanie, and she's missing, so I want to report her as a missing person." The detective seems slightly frustrated when he explains to Luke that the HPD will only accept reports of real missing people. He tells Luke, I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can do. I recommend that you go back to the lobby and tell the receptionist you want to make a report of stolen property. Our stolen property division will have a look at it, and if there are any leads, or better yet, they're able to recover your missing humanoid, they will notify you." Clearly disappointed, Luke tries to reason with the detective, but the detective is having none of it. He cuts Luke off and tells him thousands of humanoids go missing every year, and as long as humanoids are still considered robots, they will be treated as property and not people. "Look, Mr. Hastings, I also strongly recommend that you offer a reward for information leading to the recovery of your missing property. Black market humanoid sales has become a huge problem, and sometimes the only way to recover a missing humanoid is to offer a reward and pay ransom. Or worse, pay ransom. Luke thanks the detective for his time, gets up from his chair and exits the office. He walks down a gloomy hallway toward the door leading to the lobby. Once in the lobby, he heads straight for the exit. Luke has no intention of reporting Melanie as a missing property. He's going to find her himself, even if it's the last thing he ever does. And that's the end of chapter 4. And I think we're gonna do one last chapter on this episode, folks. We're gonna do the first. Maybe we'll do 5 chapters each, because I've outlined this into like 30, 40, 50 chapters, but some of that is just outline. I haven't written actual dialogue in the book for every one of those chapters. I'm just starting out, so maybe only the first 10 we actually have what we've been reading. So let's see, we're on chapter 5 now, and chapter 5 is all written out as well. This one's a long chapter. Chapter 6, chapter 5 is the last chapter where I really write it out. Once we get into chapter 6, it's more of a quick, just like a description of what chapter 6 might be, and then 7, and then 8, and we go all the way into 20, 29, 30, 38, 40. So folks, this is going to be this is a journey, folks. And when it comes to journeys, it's not about the destination. You know what I'm saying? It's the journey itself. So we're going to finish up. We're at 32 minutes right now. That'll probably take 8 minutes to read. So we're going to do chapter 5. Wow. I didn't realize how long. Chapter 5 is the longest chapter that I wrote. And chapter 5 is entitled Back at the Womb. Remember, the womb is one of the THC, or the human corporation's manufacturing plant. And that's where they're actually making them. So it's like the womb. You get it? Like they're birthing these robots. Chapter 5. In a meeting at the THC Silicon Valley headquarters, Alexei Ivanov, along with a dozen executives, are discussing the imminent visit of Lieutenant General Lee. Any minute, Lieutenant General Lee may come walking through that door. It was the first time a high-ranking military official had ever come to visit and tour the facility. It was in THC's best interest to guarantee Lieutenant General Lee was given VIP treatment. And sitting at the head of a 30-foot-long executive boardroom table, Alexei gives his executives their final directives and goes on to motivate his staff, giving a speech. Ladies and gentlemen, we're all here for the same reason. It is our goal to bring humanoids to humanity. Alexei is talking from his heart. His passion is THC. His passion is robotics. He pleads with his team. Every person on this planet will come to know a humanoid. What will that person's experience with a humanoid be? Alexei rises from his chair and begins to walk across the room. He continues, it is up to us to present to the world a THC that is innovative, that is on the cutting edge of technology. It is up to us to demonstrate to the world how a humanoid can enhance the human condition. Alexei stops and pauses. It's so quiet you could hear a pin drop. He gazes at everyone in the room and says, Rome wasn't built in a day, folks. We must all be prepared for the long and arduous journey that lies ahead. Today we have an opportunity. We find ourselves host to a powerful man. Any minute, Lieutenant General Lee will be here, and we must make him understand the importance of our work. And with that, Alexei exits the room. The executives exchange notes and niceties while they await the arrival of Lieutenant General Lee. Much is on the agenda, and many THC representatives will be meeting with the general. A look at the clock reads 9 o'clock in the morning. Lieutenant General Lee has spent the last few hours speaking with THC bigwigs and touring the facility. So he's arrived. He now is on his way to have lunch with the founder and CEO of THC, Alexei Ivanov himself. Lee is escorted to the impressive industrially styled THC campus cafeteria. Once there, Lee and Ivanov participate in a quick press photo op and subsequently take up food trays, select their meals, and sit down for lunch. Lee and Ivanov have several aides with them, but Lee had asked in advance for a private lunch with Ivanov. Lee and Ivanov sit alone at a cafeteria table in a large cafeteria. The others sit far away from Lee and Ivanov. And sitting across the room from each other, or sitting across from each other, not the room, but the table, sitting across from each other, Lee and Ivanov size each other up. They both have ulterior motives. They exchange pleasantries, but both are guarded. After several more minutes of light banter, Lieutenant General Lee gets down to business. Mr. Ivanov, do you know why I'm here today? Asked Lee in a serious tone. Ivanov, caught off guard, stammers. To see the humanoids, I suppose. That's right, Mr. Ivanov, to see where humanoids are made, Lee says, both mockingly and seriously. Lee looks at Ivanov and says, I'm impressed with what you're doing here, Mr. Ivanov. Your people have been very accommodating and have given me an adequate tour of the place. Ivanov is pleased, blushes a bit, and thanks Lee for his pleasantries. However, says Lee, to the contrary, I know you're keeping something from me. Ivanov's heart skips a beat. Concerned, he replies, I'm sorry, General, but you're going to have to be a little more elaborate and explain to me what you mean, sir. Do you know what it is I do at the Pentagon? Lee asks Ivanov. Not exactly, sir. Good, Lee says quickly, almost on top of Ivanov's response. There is a reason you don't know what it is I do. Exactly. Same as there's a reason I don't know what all is going on here at your facilities. Lee goes on. I'm here, Alexei, to ask you for your assistance. The U.S. government is asking for your assistance. Ivanov is extremely wary of the government, and Lee is not exactly assuaging those sentiments. Alexei says, I'm glad to help, and so is THC in any way possible. What is it that you were proposing? Ivanov asks, bewildered. An awkward silence pierces the cafeteria. Lee looks at Ivanov with a cold-blooded marine stare and says, humanoid soldiers. So there's a break, right? So scene cuts. And in a remote location in the Santa Clara Valley, there is an obscure metal industrial building on the beaten path off the farthest county road. Reaching the facility by car is an arduous adventure. The roads are narrow and not paved. Many days of the year, travel to the facility by vehicle is not even possible. Along the way, there are several checkpoints manned by armed security. As you pull up to the complex, you realize there are no markings or numberings on the building. There's a small parking lot with about 30 cars in it at any given time. This is a top secret THC facility, and it is where Lieutenant General Lee is headed. Lee travels to the facility by helicopter. The helicopter is a private helicopter. It does not have any U.S. military markings. It makes a soft landing on the helicopter pad, not far away from the parking lot. Lee exits the helicopter and is met on the pad by Alexei Ivanov. They shake hands, and from a way you can tell, they only say a few words to each other. Then they rode back to the facility in a country club golf cart. As they approach the building's entrance, Ivanov says to Lee, this is where we make specialized humanoids. We can make any kind of humanoid we want. Perhaps even the kind you are looking for. Ivanov gives pause. General Lee. So he's like, we can even make the kind that you're looking for. General Lee. Inside the building resembles a hospital or a clinic. Fluorescent lighting and long halls. There's a check-in office near the entrance of the building, and Ivanov and Lee quickly pass through it, like a checkpoint. There's a checkpoint there. They walk down a hall and approach an elevator. They enter the elevator, and Ivanov pushes a button on the elevator keypad. 20 highlights on the board. So they're going maybe to the 20th floor. The elevator begins to move when Lee says, "We're going down?" But the building looked to be only 20 feet from outside, so it's not like a 2-story building. But he highlights number 20. They're going 20 stories down, underground. Ivanov, impressed with his own facilities, has a smirk on his face when he replies, "It gets even cooler." The elevator stops and the door opens, revealing a sight to behold. Lee sees humanoids in every stage of completion, meticulously being tended to by engineers in lab coats. Lee follows Ivanov as they walk past various stations. Computers and other high technology instruments and devices are everywhere. There have long been rumors on the internet that THC is developing specialized humanoids. The conspiracies and fake news surrounding covert THC innovations and projects has always been an issue for the company. If the public only knew, but for now, Ivanov knew it was best to present a politically correct public image. Therefore, there is a specialized humanoid being developed by THC designed to be the most efficient and productive mobile Wi-Fi spot in the world. THC spent millions on advertising and promotion. Ivanov did the regular rounds on TV shows and magazine interviews, and for the most part, THC received pretty good press. Although humanoids are controversial, and so is THC, the media and academia has always supported humanoids and the companies and the people behind this brave new world invention. Lee continues to marvel at the sights before him as he and Ivanov approach the end of the hall. They stop directly in front of a large, secured doorway. Ivanov enters in some info into a panel by the doorway. The sound of conveyors moving steel is heard as the doors begin to open. Now open, Ivanov and Lee make entry, and they are greeted by Bill Masterson. "Good day, Mr. Ivanov. We have been eagerly expecting your arrival. When we found out you would be paying a visit, everyone in our department became extremely excited," says Bill, with a tinge of brown-nosing. "I have a VIP with the Pentagon with me today, Bill. Let's be sure we give him the tour we talked about." "Most definitely, Mr. Ivanov." Bill looks to Lee and back at Ivanov and says, "This way." Bill has just recently been promoted to operations manager for the covert Santa Clara facility. Until recently, he headed THC's main manufacturing complex. Bill has been with THC since they built their first humanoid, Sally 1.0. He played an integral part in the production of humanoids over the past 3 years and was able to successfully navigate through the massive workload and complexities of scaling THC's manufacturing. Because of his success and his stock options, he was presented with this new opportunity to lead THC's top secret workshop. Bill talks to Ivanov and Lee. Bill takes Ivanov and Lee to his office. "Have a seat," says Bill. Ivanov and Lee both sit in front of a large office desk. Behind the desk, Bill is standing and gestures towards the adjacent wall. A projector is showing a PowerPoint. "Funny, I'm surrounded by breakthrough level technology, and yet I'm still using PowerPoint," chuckles Bill. "It's fine, Bill. It's probably what the general is used to. Isn't that right?" Ivanov says as he looks to Lee. Lee gestures in the affirmative. Bill begins his PowerPoint presentation. Lieutenant General Lee uses the leathered legal pad he's been carrying this whole time and takes notes. Slide 1 of this presentation. His notes. So the way this is working is Lieutenant Lee is taking notes from each slide. So the slide 1 notes, he notates on his pad. Data mining. THC is developing covert data mining technology and incorporating it into humanoids, which will allow them to secretly collect volumes of data. THC will then utilize this data in numerous ways, but ultimately humanoids will be the ultimate intelligence collection tool. Slide 2. The slide 2 notes. Communications. Writes generally. THC is equipping humanoids with advanced communication technology with the capability to communicate directly with satellites in real time. No longer do we need to put valuable special operators' lives in danger in order to relay coordinates for precision missile strikes. Slide 3 notes. Efficiency. THC's humanoids will follow any order so long as it does not violate the 3 rules for robots. the potential for implementation and utilization in industries such as healthcare and other consumer services. Slide 4 notes. Profits. THC will monopolize the 5G humanoid market, creating the most valuable company in the world. And that's the end of chapter 5. Chapter 6 is giving an idea of how the other chapters are just briefly summarized. Chapter 6 is titled The Plug. And in this chapter, General Lee visits the womb and has an extensive conversation with Bill Masterson about manufacturing and procuring military-grade humanoids. These humanoids are then taken to a secret military installation for testing. And further details are revealed regarding Bill's mindset and his newly acquired humanoid. Because remember, in chapter 1, he was fixing to get one. But we got to elaborate on each one of these, on chapter 6, 7, 8. Again, all the chapters going forward are just quickly summarized. So we got a lot of work to do, folks. But I hope you enjoyed it so far. Hope you're enjoying it so far. Again, if you have any ideas, send it to us at jaminsdaily@gmail.com. Don't forget that this podcast is brought to you by Sage Choice Insurance Agency. You can reach us at 361-400-2411. You can find us on Facebook. So you can find Sage Choice Insurance Agency on Facebook. You can also find Jamin's Daily on Facebook. Go to those places. Share, like, comment. Just get involved. But again, for auto and home insurance, give us a call. Sage Choice Insurance, 361-400-2411. Thank you for joining us here with Jamin's Daily. Jamin, your host, episode 27. Our novel we're writing, HRH, Humanoids Are Humans. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for sticking with us, because the best is yet to come.